My partner has PMDD. Now what? This is the title of my new course that just became available. And for the month of December, I am going to give the first 12 individuals who purchase this program a private session with me to go over all of the modules with them and customize it to their relationship only for the month of December and only the first 12 individuals. This course is specifically designed for partners. If you've ever said to yourself that you want your partner to be more supportive, you wish that they knew more about PMDD, you've been sending them articles and they're really just not changing their behavior. If you're the partner, you've read more about PMDD, but it's not giving you the actionable tools on how you can get your relationship to be better, to reduce that stress in your relationship. If you're even on your last leg and you're saying, Dr. Rose, I don't know if we're going to make it because we've gone through so many fights, we've gone through so many arguments in PMDD, we're really close to fearing the next month in PMDD because we barely made it last month, and you're feeling like you need the actionable tools as the partner on how to be more supportive and then also get your needs met. Because I know that partners go through so much when they're in PMDD and they need a place to really process that and really understand what am I doing wrong and stop beating yourself up. And most of all, stop walking on eggshells. This program is designed so that both the partner who has PMDD and the partner who doesn't, to stop walking on eggshells within your relationship and get back to that place of having the peace. Because that's one of the biggest things that PMDD can take away from your relationship because of why the chaos and confusion of not really understanding what to do in PMDD. What happens in the luteal phase? What do I need to do? What do I need not to do? What are the mistakes that I'm making? This course is going to give you all the information that you need. It's going to go through the PMDD symptoms. It's going to go through the number one partner mistake. It's going to go through intimacy, attachment styles, family dynamics, friends and families. And then most importantly, I am giving you my signature 6 characteristics of a supportive PMDD partner. And I'm giving you the actionable tools on how you can start implementing those within your relationship. So I'm looking forward to the first 12 individuals. You'll be able to book a session with me that is going to be complimentary with this program, along with all of the workbooks, the tools, everything that you need is in this program. And it's called My Partner Has PMDD. Now what? I look forward to hearing about the transformation that you get from this course. I'll see you in there. We got this. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of the decisions that I made after being in so many PMDD relationships that have really impacted my symptoms and made them better as far as setting boundaries on the kind of relationship I wanted to have moving forward. And that is the walking on eggshells. You know, one of the biggest things that caused me to struggle in all of my PMDD relationships that I've had over the years, over the past 18 years, is that feeling of walking on eggshells. And the reason why it caused me to suffer so much is because when you're in that place of walking on eggshells, you have very little control over your environment. And it almost leaves you at the mercy of your partner's actions. Like if my partner, opens up to me, then I'll feel better. If my partner talks to me, then I'll feel better. Or you're just not wanting to trigger your partner anymore and you're not wanting to make it worse. So you find yourself in this position where every little thing that you're doing, you're over analyzing that. And the problem with walking on eggshells and having premenstrual dysphoric disorder is that it makes you really hyper vigilant to everything that your partner says and does. So if you're already overthinking because you have PMDD and then you're walking on eggshells, and by walking on eggshells, it means you're not able to have peace in your relationship. There's a lot of chaos and confusion. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of unknowns. And when there's unknowns, then you start to make up stories in your mind about what you think your partner is thinking. And you're starting to give explanations for their actions that may not be true. And then when you're approaching them and you're talking to them about issues, a lot of the things that you're talking to them about are things that you made up in your mind or things that you've perceived. Because when you're walking on eggshells, you're avoiding the difficult conversations. You know, if you have this conversation that it's a potential that you could fight, there's a potential that you could argue, and you know what that looks like, you know what that feels like. So you're trying not to go there. So today I'm really going to talk to you about why it's so damaging to walk on eggshells in your relationship, specifically because you're avoiding those difficult conversations. And one of the things that I've noticed with all of my private clients is that when we are on sessions, when we're on private sessions, a lot of times what your partner is saying in those sessions you've never heard. And that is one of the most beneficial ways of having private sessions with me, specifically with PMDD relationships, is that I can understand a lot of what's going on in your PMDD relationship and kind of mediate those hard conversations so that it doesn't turn into a fight, that it doesn't turn into an argument. So within the course that I developed is specifically designed for partners that are walking on eggshells in their relationship. It's called My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? And in this program, I give you the exact tools of what you need to do to be able to be a supportive PMDD partner and not have to feel like you can't talk to your partner about what you're really thinking. You can't talk to your partner about what you're really feeling. So this course is specifically designed for partners, but I really suggest that you both take this course together. And for the month of December only, we're on December 9th at this point. I have 10 more spots available because when you for the first 12 individuals that get this program, then you do get a private session with me to go over all of the modules and customize it to your relationship. This is a very intensive way of customizing the program, as if I would if you were my private client, as if we had private sessions, because I know what you don't need, and I've told you this before, is just more information about PMDD, just more information about relationships as a whole. You know, it's so easy to just say, oh, you need to communicate better. I remember hearing that earlier in my journey. It's like, you guys just need to learn how to communicate better. It's like, yeah, I understand that, but that doesn't help me feel like I'm not still walking on eggshells with my partner. It's like, you are very intelligent people. I've had you as my private clients. You've listened to me over the years. You're very smart. You don't need to be told the basic things about what to do on your PMDD relationship. It's not about that. It's about the ebbs and flows of PMDD specifically. It's about the things that come up in your PMDD brain every single month that you go into PMDD, and what you're thinking and what you're overthinking and what your partner is really saying. You know, I have a lot of private sessions with just a partner. And the things that they're telling me are things that they've and not even told their partner. And I will always ask them, I said, well, what is the fear that you're having? Because that's really what it is. When you're walking on eggshells, there's a fear. It's an internal fear that if I, specifically for partners, if I say this and if I, express how I'm really feeling, number one, I'm going to continuously be told that I'm the reason why, her PMDD symptoms are worse. I'm going to feel like I'm the problem. I'm going to feel like I ruined the vibe. I feel like I ruined the moment if I'm the one that brings up these difficult conversations. So instead, what the partners do is just keep it to themselves. They keep it to themselves. But the thing about it, it's not sustainable. I can understand if you're going to an event and you're traveling with the family and you're like, maybe this isn't a good time to talk about these issues. I've done this with my private clients where I say, hey, let's take a pause, especially around the holidays. If you're going to these events and things, maybe take a pause and we'll have a session when you get back. Or let's have a session, which I prefer, is let's have a session before you leave to get put all your cards on the table. Say how you're really feeling. Let your partner understand what you're really going through, because then it's going to help you understand them better versus both of you are existing in the home, existing in the car, and not really understanding what the other person is going through. And holding that in is so painful. To hold in your true emotions that you're feeling about your partner is so painful because the emotions are still going to be there. They're not going away just because you're not expressing them. How you're feeling doesn't go away just because you choose not to communicate it. So if you know that there's something that your partner is saying, or you know that there's something that your partner is doing that's really triggering you, but you feel like you can't bring it up, because then you're going to get into another fight and it's going to be like you're the problem. And you're going to be told you always want to fight, you always want to argue, when all you really want to do is communicate in a way that doesn't cause more damage to your PMDD relationship. You want your partners to be able to hear you, see you, feel you, validate you, understand, without feeling like you're trying to demonize them or fight with them. I remember being in that point where I was feeling like I have all these things to say. And then I go to have the conversation and I make sure that I say it in the right way and all these things. And then you feel like a failure because you still end up in an argument. And then you think back to what started the argument. And it was you bringing up how you genuinely felt about an issue. And so you begin to program your brain cognitively talking about your issues are bad or talking about it's better, your relationship is better when you don't talk about your issues. But again, it's not sustainable because the more that you hold it in, the more you're going to suffer. And that's really when there's a breakdown in your intimacy, it's because you're not having those conversations because you don't feel close to the person anymore. You don't feel like this is the person that understands you. You feel like you can talk to other people about it, but you can't talk to your partner about it. And your partner is supposed to be that person that you can talk to about anything. So if you're listening to this and you're like, Dr. Rose, my partner is absolutely not the person that I can talk to about anything because every single time we bring things up on our own, it ends up in a fight, it ends up in an argument. And for the partner who has PMDD, it probably makes your symptoms worse. I was so hyper vigilant. I was so on edge. I had so much anxiety, even going up to having the conversations. Like when you're walking on eggshells, you try to do it on your own, right? And you try to say, okay, well, I know that I have this issue. I'm going to find the right time to talk to them and I'm going to find the right way to talk to them. Like it's almost like a catch 22 because you feel like when your partner's in a good mood and you're both in a good place, you don't want to say anything because you don't want to ruin the mood. But then some of you also think, well, okay, we're in a really good place. Maybe they won't be so triggered by the conversation if I bring it up right now and you bring it up and then all you hear is criticism and blame. So that's the basis of why a lot of these arguments end up in fights and or why these conversations end up in fights is because you end up talking to your partner about the issue that you have and they feel criticized and then they get defensive and they start talking about things to you that they've been holding in. So what happens is both of you have been holding in things in your PMDD relationship that you haven't said. And then when it comes to these difficult conversations, that's when it's coming out. That's when all of the everything that you've been holding in is eventually going to come out. And a lot of times when you're wondering why your partner who is suffering with PMDD goes off on PMDD rage, it is absolutely because they've been holding in things for days, for months, for even years at some point. Because when you're going off on PMDD rage, it's never just about the one thing. It's never just about, oh, everything was fine. You guys are on the same page. And then boom, they immediately start talking about all of these things. They didn't come out of nowhere. They came out of avoiding having the difficult conversations. And when you're in that space, you may feel like avoiding talking about these topics, whether the topics are family, whether the topics are intimacy, where you're not getting your needs met. A lot of times when you do not bring up the needs that are not getting met into your relationship, it's gonna build resentment. You're going to have a lot of resentment because you're going to start to look at everything that you've been doing in the relationship and you're going to start to feel underappreciated. You're going to feel like they don't value you. You're going to feel like, what's the point of even being in the relationship if you're not getting your needs met? Because unaddressed issues, they pile up over time. So if you feel like you can only talk to your partner during the follicular days when everything's great, and then when it's in PMDD, a lot of things can happen over the course of your luteal phase. If your luteal phase is 7 to 10 to 14 days, it can pile up because issue after issue. I know when I was in my PMDD relationship, we had stuff going on every single day. It was not a day that there wasn't another issue that got brought up. So if you don't create that space and time to talk about it, if you don't create that space and time to really talk about it in a way that doesn't do damage, or even have it in your mind, what really helped was having a set time. I used to have sessions with my ex all the time. And I would say, okay, we're going to talk about things on Sunday. And I would call it like a walk and talk where I would go on a walk because we were long distance and I would just be on the phone and we would talk about whatever issues that we had. And that was our set time. But if you don't have that, it's going to create a lot of emotional distance. The intimacy is going to be gone because the inability to address those tough topics that are going on in your relationship, it makes both of you feel disconnected. So when you want the intimacy, the physical intimacy, the closeness, the affection, you have to be vulnerable and you have to be honest with your partner, no matter what, about what you're going on in the relationship. And a lot of times you're wondering why you're feeling disconnected. And it's because there's no intimacy. Everything is very surface level. You're talking about the kids, you're talking about the chores, you're talking about the finances, you're talking about things. But then when it comes time where you're getting in the bed and you're wanting to cuddle and you're wanting to feel close and you're wanting to be intimate, and the partner's just not feeling it, and you're wondering why they're not responsive to your physical intimacy, it's because there's no emotional intimacy. They are very well connected. So a lot of times you're settling for this lifestyle where you're both walking on eggshells and the intimacy is gone, and you're thinking to yourself, you get helpless. You're saying, okay, I guess it's always going to be like this. I guess this is just how my relationship is going to be. And if you really think back to it, you didn't start getting into a relationship with your partner without any intimacy. At some point, you were emotionally connected. At some point, you had that affection, you had that love, you had that validation. And what's happened is you've kind of trained yourself to not talk about the issues and think that that's the new normal and think that it's sustainable. So a lot of times when you're avoiding those difficult conversations, um, you're getting into those assumptions. You're filling in the gaps. So when you're quiet in your house and you're looking over at your partner, or you're quiet in the car and you're looking over at them and you're like, oh, they haven't touched my hand. Like, say you're in the car and say you're remembering that, oh, when you used to be in the car, you used to always hold hands. Or when you're walking down the street, you used to always hold hands. And then if you get in the car and you notice that your partner's not reaching over and holding your hand, instead of asking them, instead of addressing that uncomfortableness, you're choosing to fill in the gaps in your mind. Oh, they don't love me. Oh, they're not attracted to me. Oh, they don't care about me. Oh, they're talking to coworkers. Maybe they're more attracted to them, or maybe they would rather be with somebody else who had these qualities, or maybe they would rather be with someone who doesn't have PMDD. You see how you're catastrophizing and you're making up all these stories in your mind because you're avoiding having that conversation by just saying, you're having a misinterpretation of their actions. So your partner could just be sitting there and they could be thinking about things that happen at work, or thinking about things that are going on with school, or thinking about things that are going on with the kids. And that's the reason why they haven't reached over and held your hand. Not because they're not attracted to you, not because they don't love you, not because they don't care about you, not because they don't want to be with you, but because they have a lot of things going on in their mind. But instead of having that conversation, because you're walking on eggshells, you don't literally have to be walking. You could be sitting down on eggshells, or it's the same thing where you're sitting on the couch. I remember having that conversation in my mind when I was looking over at my partner, and we were on like an L-shaped couch, and like he was always on one side and I was always on the other side. And it just didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel good that, we were so literally together, spending time together, but it looked so separate. I didn't feel close. I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel emotionally supported. I felt just distant. And instead of having that difficult conversation and just being like, hey, babe, like, do you want to come over here? Do you want to lay over here? Do you want to? We didn't have the conversations. We were both walking on eggshells. He had things that he was not saying. I had things that I was not saying. And so what happened is when I went into PMDD, it increased my anxiety. We already have anxiety when we're in PMDD. We already do the overthinking. We already do the catastrophizing. We already have the intrusive thoughts. But when I consistently felt on edge, I was wondering when a lot of these unspoken issues might resurface. For partners that don't have PMDD, you may be wondering, when is the next time that we're going to have a fight? You're walking on eggshells in a way that you're feeling like it's always going to be a fight. It's always going to be an argument. If there's 7 to 10 to 12 to 14 days of PMDD, at some point we're going to argue. And that's why this course is so important. My partner has PMDD. Now what? Because as you're going through the modules and you're really working through a lot of the issues, you're uncovering a lot of the issues that you may have with your PMDD partner, or you may have with your relationship, but you're doing it in a way that's constructive. You're doing it in a way that's going to get your needs met. You're doing it in a way where you're going to learn how to communicate and get everything off of your chest. And when I tell you how relieved you're going to feel to be able to be in a relationship with your partner and understand that, you know, my partner may be struggling with PMDD, but I'm not the problem. A lot of times partners are feeling like they're the problem because you're really addressing what the true problem is. And it's not about either one of you being the problem. The problem is the problem, not the partner. A lot of times when you're not seeing eye to eye on certain issues with intimacy or communication or the kids or anything, that is the problem. But what happens is you're making your partner the enemy because you're not talking about what the actual problem is. But when you get to that place and you're learning these tools on how to communicate it, you're going to feel relieved because you're going to feel like, okay, my partner actually knows what I'm talking about. My partner actually knows how I feel. I have a whole module in the program that's specifically on problem solving. And this works with whatever problem that you have in your PMDD relationship. It gives you step by step how to address the problem in a way that is not going to trigger your partner. Because avoiding conversations about challenges means solutions are never talked about. You're not having a communication because you're not solving any problem. So the problem stays there cycle after cycle, month after month. The problem doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of, you get a little irritable about it because you're like, here we go again. We still haven't come on the same page with chores. It could be simple like you want your partner to handle more of the chores around the house because you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like what's the point of being in a relationship if you're always doing all the things and you're not feeling like your partner understands how much that you're going through, how much is taking out of you to have premenstrual dysphoric disorder and handle all the things by yourself. But you feel like every single time that you ask them to do something, that they're not doing it. So you've gotten to the point where you're feeling like, what's the point? I might as well not even ask anymore. So you're not having those conversations that are like, okay, this is the problem. I need help with the chores or I need help with the kids. And then you're getting to a point where you're giving up and you're just feeling helpless and you're feeling like your relationship is always going to be in this place where you're feeling really disconnected, where you're feeling like it's not a safe place to talk about your feelings. It's not a safe place because you don't want to trigger them. One of the most hurtful things that partners really go through, and I know this from counseling them, is feeling like they're the problem, where they're not trying to be the problem, feeling like you're suffering because of them. That is the worst thing because believe it or not, your partner wants to make your PMDD better. They want to help relieve some of your symptoms, but a lot of times your symptoms are worse when you're in a relationship with a partner who is avoiding having those conversations because it creates stress. And stress is one of the number one indicators that your symptoms are going to be worse. Whenever I have private clients and I ask them, what's going on in their life, it's because their symptoms are directly impacted by the amount of stress that they're going through. And if your relationship is causing you to have more stress, then you'll get to that point where you're thinking, oh, my relationship is making my PMDD symptoms worse. No, the stress in your relationship is making your PMDD symptoms worse. So I remember I was the other day, with my daughter, I was like, there were some things that she wanted or she needed to talk about. And she was just like, I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about it right now. And the heaviness that was in the house because I was walking on eggshells. I didn't want to say anything that made her feel more triggered. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. And it brought me back to that place of living in a household where you're walking on eggshells. And I literally said to myself, I will never be in a position, I will never put myself in a position where I'm walking on eggshells in any relationship. And that is specifically why I designed this course. My partner has PMDD. Now what? It's because I know how horrible it feels to be in a household, in a space with someone that you love. And you know that there's something wrong with them. They're saying there's nothing wrong with them. They're saying that everything's fine. And because you're choosing to just not address the issue. And I remember feeling like, okay, I kept asking, and she kept saying, I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to talk about it right now. So the first thing that I did, I scheduled a time. I said, okay, you don't have to talk about it right now, but let's talk about it at this point. And what happened was we had a very long, difficult conversation, but at the end of it, no one was walking on eggshells in this household. No one, everything came out. And I'm going to tell you, it kind of is a situation where it gets worse before it gets better. And what I mean by that, all of the things that came out were things that I had no idea. I had no idea she felt this way. I had no idea she wanted certain things. But what happens is when you have those difficult conversations, all of the things that your partner's been holding in, it comes out and it's such a relief. It's not just a relief for your partner, but it's a relief for you because you finally know what it is that you need to do. You're like, okay, so now I know how to behave in this relationship in a way that is not going to cause you to suffer more. So the tools that are in this program, my partner has PMDD. Now what, are allowing you to just put everything on the table. And that module that I have on there, because there's 14 modules. I had 12, but I put two bonus modules in there. And that module on problem solving is allowing you to strategically map out, okay, this is the problem that we're having. Let's address the problem as it is, because what happens is when you don't address the problem, when you avoid the difficult conversations, you feel powerless to address the reoccurring issues. And so this avoidance, it becomes a habit. You continuously avoid every single time that you have issues. And what the private session is, and there's only 10 more. I'm saying that now as of the 9th of December, but when you go on there, it may be less than that. So what I want you to do is just pause this episode, go to inlovewithpmdd.com and go ahead and grab the sessions. When you get the program, you're going to see a link to schedule the session with me. And what that's going to do is going to put you on the calendar and it's going to block off that specific appointment. You can book the appointment for the month of December. I have my books pretty open and you can book it at a time that's convenient for you and convenient for your partner. There's two ways that you can handle the session. You can have it one-on-one with me and the partner, or you can have it all three of us. So it's the same price for all of them. But go in there and get it because I don't want it to be gone by the time you hear this. Because I've had a lot of inquiries. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. I know a lot of you had sent in messages and said, Dr. Rose, I can't find you on social media. So on social media, on Instagram, is Dr. Rose underscore in love with PMDD. Dr. Rose underscore in love with PMDD. On TikTok, it's just in love with PMDD. You can find me every single day on both of those platforms. But if you have questions, DM me or you can just email me, rose@inlovewithpmdd. So what happens is when you start to avoid having these difficult conversations in PMDD, it makes your boundaries unclear. And what I mean by that, when you're not discussing sensitive topics, you can't understand what your partner may be doing to overstep. Like if I say that you're making comments that are below the belt and you're criticizing me and you're blaming me, all these things, you don't know that unless I tell you. So if I have this built up resentment for the way that you're talking to me, but I'm not specifically telling you, then you don't know if you're consistently doing things that are going below the belt or that are making me feel like I'm not valued or that are criticizing me and blaming me unless I tell you, but not in a way where I'm telling you, where I'm yelling at you and I'm shouting at you and saying, why don't you do this? And why don't you? No, you don't want to communicate it in a way where you're blaming and shaming your partner. You really want to do it in a way that is not avoiding the issues but saying it with love. And the way that you end up saying it with love is you handle it at the lowest level. If you're my private client, you know what I mean. You don't wait until it's built up and that you've been holding it in for so long, because you're going to immediately explode. You're going to say it as soon as you feel it. You're going to say it as soon as you feel it. You're going to say it, but you're not going to say it in a way where you're blaming them and shaming them. So this is what's really helping with the private sessions is when you tell me the issue, and then I help you communicate it in a way that doesn't do damage to your PMDD relationship, to get it out. And then the partner is more receptive. Your partner is going to be receptive to hearing what it is that you're thinking and you're feeling, and the things that are triggering you. And it's going to get rid of that fear. So the fear is what's behind walking on eggshells. You're scared that if you say something that your partner's going to be triggered, they're going to go off and they're going to say that you're to blame. You're scared of you're saying the wrong thing. You're scared of this, and then it's causing you to shut down and just say nothing. The solution to having these difficult conversations is not to say nothing. It's to say it in a way that doesn't do damage in your PMDD relationship. So if you're saying, Dr. Rose, we have so many issues that we need to deal with, that we've been walking on eggshells with, and I don't want to go another month, I don't want to go another cycle of PMDD and be in this place of not being able to say how I really feel, feeling emotionally disconnected, not getting my needs met, then you need to go get that course. My partner has PMDD, now what? So that your partner understands how to stop walking on eggshells and to be a supportive PMDD partner. And you understand how to in turn get your needs met for that intimacy, or feeling like I can say anything that I need to say to my partner and I'm not going to get punished for it. I'm not going to feel like I can't talk to them. I'm not going to be talking to my friends and family more than I'm talking to my partner about the issues that I have. Because a lot of times, if you're talking to friends and family about what's going on, all they're hearing is a negative. All they're hearing is you venting, and all they're going to do is tell you that you need to break up. So if you want to stop that cycle, go get that program and grab one of the last 10 spots that are for the program where you get that complimentary, that free private session with me because it's only for the first 12 individuals. Once those are gone, you're still going to be able to get the program, but you're not going to get the private session with it. So go to inlovewithpmdd.com. And until next time, we got this. Love you. I hope these tools help you and your PMDD partner. If you have not enrolled to get the course, My Partner Has PMDD, now what? Then you want to make sure that you are one of the first 12 individuals that gets the course for the month of December to get that complimentary private session with me. And then after that, it'll go back to regular price without the private sessions. But what this course is going to do for you is give your partner all of the tools that they need on how to be a supportive PMDD partner. What does that look like? I always say that your partner doesn't need more information. They need more implementation. They need more transformational tools. And this is the program for you. So I'm looking forward to you getting those tools in the program. And until next episode, we got this.